Welcome back to the channel. My name's Jeff Ascoff and we've got another Leica Mastershot edit for you this week, and this nicely follows on from my last editing video where we looked at this shot. Now this photograph was taken with a Leica M Monochrom, that's the original monochrome with a CCD sensor, and I also used an orange filter on a 28mm lens, and the photograph features the seawall on the south side of Blackpool. This is kind of a little bit dull if you look at it like this. The orange filter's done a lot of heavy lifting in taking the sky down and making the shadows very dark, which is what actually works really well in this picture, but the overall image is underexposed and we actually have no black point. There's very, I mean, if you hover the cursor over here and see the shadow clipping, there's this tiny amount down here somewhere, and that's not really in keeping with what I actually saw. But the worst part of this is that most of the detail is sitting here. Okay, and it really needs to sit here somewhere. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the profile from monochrome, the Adobe monochrome profile, to P32 from my SILVERCHROME profile. You don't have to do this, it just makes everything look a little bit nicer. I need to set my black point, and if you've been following this channel for any length of time, you'll know this is what I always do. Hold the Option key down, bring the blacks in until they clip. Now I want this shadow area here, and if I turn this on you'll see it. I want this shadow area here to be black, so I think about there is absolutely fine. And then I'm just going to lighten the image a little bit by using a tone curve. Now my black point is anchored, so it doesn't matter what I do to the exposure. Can you see it hasn't changed? The black point is still the same. If you use the exposure slider to adjust this, it will basically move your black point, so you'll have to reset that point again. So this is the reason why I generally use curves unless the image is really underexposed. And you see already, profile change, black point, curve adjustment, how different the photograph looks already. Okay, just going to make a slight crop while I'm here. Now I want to bring the sky down a little bit. The orange filter's done a really good job. This is obviously a bright blue sky and the orange filter's darkened it a little bit, but I want it to make it a little bit more dramatic. So I'm going to use the sky filter for this. I'm just going to use my tone curve again. This is the histogram within the mask that's there now, the sky mask. And as you can see, there's no information in the highlight end, even though there's clouds there. So I'm just going to move that in until those clouds start to come out. Then I'm going to take a point here and just bring everything down a little bit to something like that. Okay, and we'll sort this dust out in a minute. I'm just going to intersect the mask with a linear gradient. Hold the Shift key down and then just pull down that gradient. And then once I've done that, I'm just going to go back to dehaze and use dehaze. Okay, I don't normally use dehaze too much, but because of the orange filter, I think it works really well. And I'm also going to use a little bit of clarity. Okay, that's just going to accentuate all this dust, but we'll deal with that in a second. If we take another brush, and my brushes are assigned to a button on my mouse, so I just click my mouse and up comes the brush. I'm just going to paint over this area here. You look at our histogram here again, you can see we've got no information in the highlights. If I move this point in, you suddenly start to see it look brighter. That's just the highlights being moved to where they should be. If we pull the midtones down a little bit, we can keep that brightness, that sparkliness if you like, that texture, and darken everything else. And that's what really helps this image. I'm going to do the same thing with this here. Let's take another brush, this pavement painting here. You don't have to be too super careful with this. Same thing again, just bring that in, and then I'm just going to darken the edges down like that. Okay, if you want more contrast, you can just do that. Curves are fantastic. Curves are the best thing ever in Lightroom. Now I just wanted to sort the sea out, drop my brush really all the way down, paint in there. It doesn't have to be again too accurate. Going to lift it a little bit, and I'm just going to bring in the black point this time. There we go, not too much, about there, and the white point to about there. Okay, let's get rid of all this dust. Let's just click on the distraction removal, go to dust, apply. I'm just going to turn the sharpening off. I've mentioned this in previous videos. I mean, I'm not a fan of sharpening, so I'm just going to go back into basic detail and then take off the sharpening. I don't think it adds anything, to be honest. Let's go and put some grain on this, some medium grain, which is quite nice. Now, to finish this picture off, we just need a contrast adjustment. Now, one of the problems with contrast adjustment, it will change depending on what you're going to be using the photograph for, the final output, if you like. I'll try and give you an example. If we just drop this down, this is against kind of a neutral grey background. It's what I tend to like to use these days. If I change this to black, okay, you'll see all of a sudden there's all this wall detail comes out. If I change this to white, most of that started to disappear and it looks a little bit more contrasty. So you have to set the contrast by whatever it is that you're going to be using the picture for. So in this case, this was LFI magazine, so I tend to set the contrast with a white background. Okay, so if we go into our parametric curve here, okay, we can adjust the contrast a little bit. And if we go back into, this was our original exposure adjustment, we can change that subtly. Okay, and then that gives us our look for a white background. And I can't stress this enough. I cannot stress this enough. You should always do your final adjustments based on what you're going to be using a picture for and how that picture is going to be shown. If it's going to be shown against a white matte in an exhibition, it needs to be judged against a white background when you're actually applying the final contrast to the image. But overall, I think that one's done. Thanks for watching. If you're somebody that's struggling with editing in Lightroom or you can't find an editing style that you like for your photographs, here's a QR link to my private online tuition. Now, if you want to see another Mastershot image taken on the same day as this one, check out this video, and as ever, I'll see you guys in the comments.